3, chapter 20, text 11?
10.
10. Okay, sorry. Text number 10. And it says, Vidura inquired, how did the Prajapatis, such progenitors of living entities as Marichi and Swayambhuva, create according to the instruction of Brahma, and how did they evolve this manifested universe? Wow, that's a very good question. Text 11. Did they evolve the creation in conjunction with their respective wives? Did they remain independent in their action? Or did they all jointly produce it? Very good question. And text number 12 says, Maitreya Uvacha, Daivena Durvita Rakyena, Pare na nirmisesana, nirmisesa cha, Jata Kshobad, Bhagavato Mahan Asid Guna Trayat. Maitreya said, when the equilibrium of the combination of the three modes of nature was agitated by the unseen activity of the living entity, by Mahavishnu, and by the force of time, the total material elements were produced. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The cause of the material creation is described here very lucidly. The first cause is Daiva, or the destiny of the conditioned soul. The material creation exists for the conditioned soul who wanted to become a false lord for sense enjoyment. One cannot trace out the history of when the conditioned soul first desired to lord it over material nature. But in Vedic literature, we always find that the material creation is meant for the sense enjoyment of the conditioned soul. Therefore, there is a nice verse which says that the sum and substance of the conditioned soul's sense enjoyment is that as soon as he forgets his primary duty to render service to the Lord, he creates an atmosphere of sense enjoyment, which is called Maya. That is the cause of material creation. Another word used here is durvitarkena. No one can argue about when and how the conditioned soul became desirous of sense enjoyment, but the cause is there. Material nature is an atmosphere meant only for the sense enjoyment of the conditioned soul, and it is created by the personality of Godhead. It is mentioned here that in the beginning of the creation, the material nature or Prakriti is agitated by the personality of Godhead, Vishnu. There are three Vishnus mentioned. One is Mahavishnu, another is Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and the third is Kshirodakshay Vishnu. Srimad Bhagavatam discusses all these three Vishnus, and here also it is confirmed that Vishnu is the cause of creation. From Bhagavad Gita also we learn that Prakriti begins to work and is still working under Krishna's or Vishnu's glance of superintendence. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unchangeable. One should not mistakenly think that because the creation emanates from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has therefore transformed into this material cosmic manifestation. He exists in his personal form always, but the cosmic manifestation takes place by his inconceivable potency. The workings of that energy are difficult to comprehend, but it is understood from Vedic literature that the conditioned soul creates his own destiny and is offered a particular body by the laws of nature under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who always accompanies him as Paramatma. So we're on Canto 3, Chapter 20, Text 12. And it says, Maitreya said, when the equilibrium of the combination of the three modes of nature was agitated by the unseen activity of the living entity, by Mahavishnu, and by the force of time, the total material elements were produced. Okay, so here Prabhupada is saying that this is an explanation of the cause of material creation. So if we want to know how everything started, this is the verse. And it says, the first cause is daiva, or the destiny of the conditioned soul. The material creation exists for the conditioned soul who wanted to become a false lord for sense enjoyment. So, man proposes, God disposes. It's a proverb. So, we have to be very careful what we desire to have. If we desire not to have anything, but certainly serve Krishna, then there would not be a material creation. But if we desire only to have sense gratification or mixed sense gratification and some Krishna consciousness, then there's going to be a material creation in which people become overwhelmed by the desire to enjoy independent of the Lord. So we have, every one of us has limited independence. What is the limit? Well, there's only two choices. Either you follow Krishna's instructions or you don't follow Krishna's instructions. You have the freedom to do both, or we have the freedom to do both. When we follow Krishna's instructions, Krishna protects us, gives us knowledge, and helps us go back to Godhead. If we don't want to follow Krishna's instructions, we get trapped by the modes of material nature. And in that illusory state of mind, we engage in sense gratification, and we go deeper and deeper into the what you would call the process of birth, death, old age, and disease. So therefore, we have to make a decision in our life which way we want to go. It's up to us. Either we go closer to Krishna or we go farther away from Krishna. So Yoga Maya brings us closer to Krishna, and Mahamaya takes us away from Krishna. So we have to decide which Maya we want to be influenced by. Now, in order to get very close to Krishna, we have to be in a state of illusion also. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible for us to be intimate with the Lord. And if we want to go away from Krishna, again, we have to get Krishna's help. Either way, we need to be helped by Krishna. Either we want to go away from Krishna or we want to come closer to Krishna. In other words, there's no question that we are independent. Now, this is a major point that we should meditate on. Oftentimes, people say that they're independent, that they say, no master, no God. No master, no God. Let's look that up. That is often said by the atheist, no master, no God. In other words, no spiritual master and no God. Now, is that true? Well, it can be true because man proposes, God disposes. Man proposes, God disposes. So if a woman says, no God, no master, okay, fine. You want to live like that. What did it say?
Phrase no gods, no masters has become a popular slogan associated with anarchism.
What?
Anarchism, Anarchism, anarchy.
Uh, I don't think you're pronouncing it right. 1 second.
Anarchy.
No, anarchism. It means, chaos. Right?
Anarchism. It succinctly encapsulates the rejection of both religious and secular forms of authority.
Yeah, not only religion, any type of authority also.
Conveys a desire for a society free from oppressive hierarchies,
Right.
be they religious, political, or economic.
Right. In other words, it's chaos. No God, no master.
God,
Yeah. What did you say, Prabhu?
Yeah, it's associated here. It says anarchism as well as atheistic movements.
Yeah.
It embodies the rejection of authority and hierarchical structures, whether they are religious, political, or social. This phrase captures the spirit of autonomy and self-governance that is central to anarchism and the rejection of religious dogma that is central to atheism.
Yeah. One time I met this man, Sankirtan, and he was telling me that, he doesn't believe in God and he doesn't believe in any spiritual authority or anything like that. So I said, "Where do you live?" He said, "Why do you want to know?" I said, "Well, you know where I live, so I should know where you live also." "No, I'm not going to tell you where I live." I said, "Well, that's not fair. I told you where I live. Why don't you tell me where you live?" Well, finally he said, "Okay, well, I live in my car." Well, I said, "Where is it?" So why do you want to know? I said, "Look, you know where I live. If you want to come and visit me, you can, but I want to know where you live." "So why do you want to know where I live?" I said, "Because I want to come and pee where you live." He said, "You're not allowed to do that." I said, "See, you have rules." In other words, he was saying, I don't accept any authority. I don't accept any rules. But I said, "See, you have rules. Everybody has rules. If you say I'm an anarchist, I don't believe in any rules. That's not true. Everybody has their own rules." So he got really upset when I talked to him. But uh, you cannot claim that you are an anarchist. That's the word, right? Anarchy. Yeah, which means that no God, no master. Everything. Uh, you don't accept any authority. Let's put it like that. Well, that's completely the opposite of Krishna consciousness. The antithesis. Look that word up. It's a good word. Antithesis of Krishna consciousness. That means it's a complete opposite of Krishna consciousness, where we believe that there are uh, authorities and there's hierarchical authorities. So we'll go one by one. What is an antithesis?
person or thing that is the direct opposite of someone or something else.
Right, right. So the person that says, no God, no masters, complete opposite of Krishna consciousness. We believe in God and we have a master, a spiritual master. Right?
That of selfishness
Love,
is the antithesis
antithesis.
of selfishness.
Yes, because when you love, you sacrifice. And the antithesis of that is being selfish and self centered, not considering the feelings or anything about anyone else. Just, in other words, I, me, and mine. Look that up. I, me, and mine. This is the antithesis of being a devotee.
It looks like antithesis is actually
Antithesis.
antithesis.
Yeah.
Um, it's used. It's a rhetorical device, like a literary device, where you typically use the juxtaposition of contrasting ideas. Like, for example, it was the best of the times, it was the worst of the times, or give me liberty or give me death.
That's a famous saying of the American Revolution.
Hmm.
I forget who said that. Some some American poet or something. Give me liberty or give me death. Yeah.
So whenever you use those extremes,
It's
opposite.
called an oxymoron. Look that up, oxymoron.
There's other examples also, Maharaj. We use commonly, right? Hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Oh, that's a good one also. Yeah. No, but the oxymoron is, look it up, see what it says. It's when you put two completely different things together.
Yeah, so here two, I mean, antithesis refers to two different extreme ideas in one phrase.
Right.
Here it's one word typically, or a combination of words, like bittersweet,
Yes.
and deafening silence,
Yes.
living dead,
Yes.
and act naturally.
Yes. Yeah. Oftentimes people use these types of phrases, you know. All right. So the Canto 3, Chapter 20, text was 12, right? Maitreya said, when the equilibrium of the combination of the three modes of nature was agitated by the unseen activity of the living entity, by Mahavishnu, and by the force of time, the total material elements were produced. The unseen activity of the living entity, by Mahavishnu, and by the force of time, the total material elements were produced. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The cause of the material creation is described here very lucidly. Lucidly means very clear. There's no equivocation, perfectly clear. The first cause is dharma, or the destiny of the conditioned soul. And that means, what is the dharma? What is the dharma of the conditioned soul? So you have a mixed bag of good and bad. People live in life with a mixed bag of good and bad things. You do some good things and you do bad things. So therefore, you have your destiny is determined by those acts. Destiny is what you are going to be more or less forced to do because of previous actions that we performed. Look up destiny. It's karma, basically. And you always have a mixed bag of karma. Some things you did good, some things you did wrong. What's it say?
The events that will necessarily happen to a particular person or thing in the future.
Yeah, that's dharma. Necessarily will happen. Yeah. Because of things that they did in the past, right? Okay. So this is something that fortunately we can free ourselves from. There are some things we can't free ourselves from, and there's other things that we can free ourselves from. So we can't free ourselves from birth, death, old age, and disease. Not possible. But we can free ourselves from our past, let's say, activities. How is that? By taking up Krishna consciousness. When I realized that, it took me a little time to realize that. When I realized that, then I understood that I should join the Hare Krishna movement because it was the only way that I could stop or free myself from my karma. And I realized I had bad karma. So the only way you can free yourself from bad karma is to become Krishna conscious. Otherwise, we're all going to receive the results of our past activities. And that's always going to be mixed, some good things and bad things. So we'll be credited the good things, and we'll be minused, or we'll have to suffer for the bad things. So I realized that I'd done so many bad things that the only way I could become free of that is to become Krishna conscious. So Krishna consciousness can put on hold your karma, and as you engage in Krishna consciousness, little by little, all those bad things that we've done in the past are eliminated. It's not completely eliminated at once. It gradually is eliminated by our let's say, determination to continue in Krishna consciousness. So it's proportional. One time I explained this to someone, and I said, I don't believe that. That's all nonsense. There's no proportional things. In other words, it means the more you engage in spiritual activity, the freer you come from your karma. And so this person says, I don't believe in any of that, But yet they can't explain why they suffer. So everybody is suffering. You don't know when it's going to happen, but except when it does happen. So then you ask a question, why is this happening? Because of mistakes that we made in the past. Suffering is happening because we made mistakes in the past. And the remedial measure for, or the remedial, let's say, result of doing something in the past is suffering in the present. So if we're suffering, it's because of things we did before. Now you can say, well, I don't remember that. Yeah, but that doesn't mean Krishna doesn't remember that. There has to be a witness, right? To be, prosecuted. So the person said, well, I don't remember doing anything wrong. Yeah, but somebody else remembers it, and it's called Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, there always has to be a witness. When you, want to when you want to prosecute someone for committing crime, well, there's got to be a witness. If there's no witness, it's really hard to convict a person. Although there is what you call circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence. Look that word up. Circumstantial evidence. So there is no, let's say, person that saw you do something bad, some sinful thing, or some crime, but you can still be prosecuted by circumstantial evidence. What does it say?
Circumstantial evidence is indirect evidence that does not, on its face, prove a fact in issue, but gives rise to a logical inference that the fact exists.
There you are. Yeah. It's like this, someone killed the cat. So you do a survey of who killed the cat. And everyone says, I didn't kill the cat. But one person who says, I didn't kill the cat, but the tail of the cat is sticking out of his mouth. So that's evidence that he killed the cat, right? So people get caught like that, How do they get caught? Well, they get caught by lying. And how do they get caught by lying? By interrogation over a long period of time. So if they interrogate you, 24, 48 hours, eventually you get so, confused and mixed up, you just, tell the truth. You don't tell the truth right away. You say, no, I didn't do anything. What do you mean? I'm completely innocent. But they keep asking you questions and interrogating you. And finally, a person's so mixed up. They say, okay, I did it. I'm sorry. Just stop this whole thing.
Mm.
So that's what happens. They interrogate people, and everyone starts out by saying, I didn't do it. Right. But eventually they'll admit that they did it because, they get so tired of being interrogated so much, And then when you to be a good thief, you have to have a perfect memory. But usually that's the way they catch you, because you can't always remember, the lies that you said in the past. So eventually you get caught. That's the way they catch you. They just keep interrogating until you begin to uh, say things that are contrary to what you said before. As soon as they catch that, then they got you. That's what interrogation is about. Now, it can last for hours, days, months, or years.
It says here circumstantial evidence requires reasoning and linking multiple pieces of evidence to draw a conclusion. And examples include, in case of crimes, fingerprints, motive, opportunity, behavior. So you have to, after it requires corroboration and careful consideration to avoid incorrect conclusion.
Yeah, you can make mistakes with circumstantial evidence. But the main thing is that most people are, by a long period of interrogation, finally they break down. They can't stand it anymore, and they tell the truth. But there are some people that never break down, right? So then you have to go on circumstantial evidence. So were you at this place at this time? You know, and then eventually, all the evidence points toward this person actually committed the crime. But that takes time, and you have to have circumstantial evidence. Uh, Circumstantial evidence.
You only said multiple times in class, Maharaj. Lying is hard, right? Because you have to,
Have a perfect memory.
yeah, you have a perfect memory. You have to connect so many things. Telling the truth is very easy because you just have to repeat the same thing.
Exactly. Exactly.
You always leave some clue.
Circumstantial evidence.
Substantial evidence is indirect evidence that does not, on its face, prove a fact in issue, but gives rise to a logical inference that the fact exists.
Yeah, logical inference. Nice phrase. Logical inference. Yeah. So, it's harder to convict someone just on logical inference, but it happens. You know, you have to, there has to be a what do you call it? Time. Uh, uh, yeah, usually uh, they get people, but after long interrogation, and you have to have a timeline. Like someone was at a party, right? And then they say, "Oh, I have to go to the bathroom. I have to go to the toilet." So then they disappear for a period of time. During the time they disappeared, they went somewhere and killed someone, and then came back again. Right? So now, when that person is interrogated, he said, "Well, I was at the party the whole time." You know, I mean, people will tell you, and then people will say, "Yeah, he was at the party." And so the question is, well, did he disappear at any time during the party? They said, well, he went to the bathroom. They said, well, how long was he in the bathroom? And they said, well, it was a little bit long time. And then they have to, they have to get the how long was he away? In other words, because he said he went to the bathroom, right? How long was he? He could have climbed through the window of the bathroom, gone somewhere, killed someone, come back again. And is uh, they can't validate that he was there all the time. So then they have to find out exactly how much time was he away, because and then they can presume that he was away long enough to go 2 miles away, kill somebody, and then come back and still say that he was there the whole time. So there's a timeline. that people have to, the police have to study to see if the person had the time to go somewhere else, commit a crime, and come back as if he went to the bathroom for a little bit longer time, or something like that. And oftentimes they say, "Well, no, he was at the party the whole time, except for the hour that he was in the bathroom." Well, an hour is just enough time for him to go a couple miles away, kill someone, and come back. So they have to have a timeline and to interrogate someone to find out, if they were far enough away to commit a crime and come back. So there are a lot of different things, but the main thing is you have to have a perfect memory in order to lie, because otherwise they'll catch you. As soon as they catch you, having said something earlier and later on you contradict yourself, then now you're caught, right? You're caught lying. And they're recording everything. So you have to be very, I don't think any of us are going to commit any crimes, but if you're going to commit a crime, you have to have a perfect memory. Okay. So we're on text 12, is it?
We're in the purport.
The purport says the cause of the material creation is described here very lucidly. That means very clearly, very matter of fact. The first cause is daiva, or the destiny of the conditioned soul. Okay, now I have a problem here. Destiny. Look up the translation or the meaning of destiny. So it's something that's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, the certainty of events.
The events that will necessarily happen to a particular person or thing in the future.
Okay, so it says here, daiva, or the destiny of the conditioned soul. But what is that destiny based on? It's based on your karma of actions that you performed previously. And then you're destined to happen. Now, when I heard something, it caused me to join Krishna consciousness. When I heard that it's possible to free yourself from your destiny, that was really interesting when I heard that. That through Krishna consciousness, you can free yourself from your destiny, meaning your previous karma. There's no other way you can free yourself. That means that we are all going to have a mixed bag of happiness and misery. But if you become Krishna conscious, the misery can be put on hold and eventually eliminated if you continue in Krishna consciousness. If you don't continue, then it comes back again. But if you continue, the longer you practice Krishna consciousness, the more all the things you've done wrong in the past are eliminated. But if in the middle of your purification, you go back to you become a recidivist. That's a good word. Look that up. Recidivist. A recidivist is a person who goes to jail, comes back, goes back to jail, comes back again, goes back to jail again. Huh?
Repeat offender.
Yeah, repeat offender. If you're a repeat offender, in other words, if you do something wrong, you go to jail, you come out, you don't do anything wrong again. Okay. But a recidivist is someone, they go to jail, they come out, they go back to jail again, they come out, they go back to jail again, they come out. Eventually, they just lock them up forever, because they're not. The whole idea is you go to jail, it's to what? Rehabilitate the person, if it's possible. But if every time they get out, they commit a crime, then they basically throw the key away, throw the lock away. lock them up and throw the key away. They're not going to let them out anymore. So look up this. Look up the example of recidivism amongst people who commit crimes. In other words, they commit a crime, then they, eventually, whatever the judge says, they had to stay in the jail is over. Then they free them. Then they go out and commit another crime. They go back to jail, and again, whatever the judge gave as time to be in jail, they do it, and they come out again. So, does it say anything?
Recidivism is one of the most fundamental concepts in criminal justice. It refers to a person's relapse into criminal behavior, often after the person receives sanctions or undergoes intervention for a period of time.
Yeah, after they, a hard time for a hard crime. And remember that, hard time for hard crime. So after their time is over, they did their hard time, they go out and right away they commit another act of violence or whatever, and they're back in the jail again. So some people will purposely get out from the jail and right away they'll commit a crime so they can go back into the jail. Why? Because once they're out, now they have to find a job, and it's going to be really difficult because they're a convicted criminal, right? So very few people are going to hire them. So it's very hard for them to have a normal life after being a criminal. So they purposely commit crimes to go back to the jail, because in the jail they have 3 square meals. They have, the heat and the bread and so forth. They have a gym. They can work out. And, some of these jails is like, paradise for these people, because they don't have to work. They don't have to pay rent. They don't have to pay taxes. They're sort of taken care of, especially in the United States. There's different levels of jails, but some jails is like, a resort place. They can work out in the gym. They can take 3-4 showers a day. It's like paradise for them. They don't have to pay anything.
Politicians jail.
Huh?
The politicians jail. Like
Okay.
that's how.
Yeah.
Is
That's how they're treated. Yeah, they have special. They have their own room. They have the phone. They can go out for a weekend and come back again. Yeah. So sometimes people say, "Well, wait a minute. Jail is better than outside life." Yeah.
So one question is the word daiva. I mean, typically is daivam means God, right? Here, the Prabhupada translates it as the destiny of the conditioned soul. I mean,
Yes.
definitely there's correlation in the sense like daivam is not something in our hands in some ways, but in this case, it connects back to our desires and our past actions.
Yeah. So the destiny of the conditioned soul. See, this is why I joined Krishna consciousness. It's the only way that you can put a stop to this so-called destiny is by becoming Krishna conscious. Otherwise, there's no other way to stop. You're going to suffer.
Maharaj, Daiva, the activity of the individual, and the divine is Mahavishnu. And then force of time is called as a third factor separate from Daiva, from Lord. Is that the agency?
The Lord is time.
Yeah. Then, but it is explicitly called the force of time. Is that because time is the agency of change?
Well, you look. No one can buy back time. That something that they did in the past. You can't buy that back, right? So there's a saying, what is that saying? There's two things you can't change. There's time and I forget now. There's a proverb that, once time passes, there's no way you can get it back, right? So therefore, the most precious thing that we have is time. If you waste time, that's like the worst thing you can do. You say, well, today I'll go to Disneyland, and spend, maybe $1,000, and see Mickey Mouse and the Donald Duck. Well, that's wasting time, right? Where you could have done something else, like chant Hare Krishna, go on Sankirtan, preach to people, have prasadam, have festival. Instead of that, you go to Disneyland, and now instead of seeing Krishna, you see Donald Duck, right? And who else? Dumbo. You see Dumbo. So this is actually sinful. You're wasting time. Time is the most precious thing we have in our life. So the more we fix our mind on Krishna, the more chance we have of going back to Godhead. And the less we keep our mind on Krishna, the less chance we have of going back to Godhead. So some people think, well, I'm only like, 18 years old. I'm going to live another 50 years. So, what's the difference if I waste another 30 years, doing sense gratification? They think like that, but you don't know when you're going to die. You could die in the next minute, right? So the most precious thing that we have is time. Why? Because once something is over, you can't go back. So you can't go bribe Yamaraj. Look, here's $10,000. Let me go back to when I was 18 years old. And no, it doesn't work. So the most precious thing that we have is time to live. And we don't know how long it's going to be. It could be, you could die in the next 10 minutes, or you could go on for another 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So if we waste our time, that is like the worst thing you can do. And that's why in Krishna consciousness, you try and keep your mind focused always on Krishna, 24 hours a day. Now, some people say, oh, how's that possible? No, it's possible, because we know people that only think about sex 24 hours a day. That's the only thing they have in their mind. Sex and making money, let's say. So in order to have sex. So you see, they prove that it's possible to think of Krishna 24 hours a day. It's not impossible. It's very possible, because so many people are thinking only about making money and having illicit sex 24 hours a day. Okay, so then the first cause is daiva, or the destiny of the conditioned soul. The material creation exists for the conditioned soul who wanted to become a false lord for sense enjoyment. One cannot trace out the history of when the conditioned soul first desired to lord it over material nature. But in Vedic literature, we always find that the material creation is meant for the sense gratification of the conditioned soul. So therefore, man proposes, God disposes. This is a very nice proverb. Man proposes, God proposes. Man proposes, God disposes. In other words, whatever you're desiring, according to your karma, you'll get it. You'll get what you're desiring. But there's, your karma is taken into the the consideration. So you might have very good karma, and you're desiring sense gratification. So you will have a long period of sense gratification. Or you might have very bad karma and desire sense gratification, but it'll be limited because you committed so many sins also previously. So man proposes, God disposes. So we have desires that we want. So Krishna will help us attain our desires, but it's limited by the karma that we have. So it's not unlimited. It'll only become unlimited when we're fully Krishna conscious. Then whatever we desire in Krishna consciousness, Krishna will let it happen. But if we have committed sinful activities in the past, then our then the ability to have unlimited, let's say, happiness is limited. So there's two kinds of happiness. There's happiness due to sense gratification, and there's happiness in Krishna consciousness. So sometimes you see that in Christianity, they portray the image of Jesus on the cross, who is suffering for the sins of others. Right? Now, see that in other words, they put the spiritual master on the cross, nail him on a cross until he dies. Now, is that a nice, positive imagery of the spiritual master? No, it's not at all. How would, I mean, could you imagine putting Prabhupada on the cross, and nailing his hands and feet to the cross? No, it's terrible. You know. So why? And then, by the way, when you get initiated, after initiation, if you violate your initiation by committing sinful activities, you're going to force the spiritual master to suffer also. He gets part of your sinful activities. He has to suffer also because of the sinful activities of the devotees. So once you promise, no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication, if you violate those rules that you promised not to do, then some of the, let's say, karma, not karma, but suffering will go to the spiritual master also. The one time Prabhupada was very sick, and the devotees, asked him, why are you so sick? And he says, because of the sins of my devotees. So it's a very serious thing when you promise to follow, the regulative principles, So when you get initiated, you say, okay, what are the rules and regulations? And you say, well, no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, and chanting Hare Krishna mantra at least 16 rounds per day, etc. Right? So you're promising not to engage in sinful activity from that point on. And if you say, well, I can't promise that I will stop these things, then you won't get initiated, right? So people just say, automatically, yeah, no meat eating, no gambling, no sex, no intoxication. But if they do those things, then the spiritual master suffers because the disciple is engaged in sinful activities. So it's a very serious vow that a person makes. Just like, the vow of marriage, till death do you part. No, in other words, you're promising there will not be a divorce or separation throughout the whole life. Well, nowadays, 50% of people that get married, they divorce. Then, if they get married again, it's 67% of that second marriage that there are divorces. And if you marry again, it goes up to 70 some percent of those people that got married again the third time and that they get divorced. So you see, we have to be what you call promise keepers. You promise to do something, you have to do it. Right? But if you promise to do something and you don't do it, and then it becomes a habit, nobody can trust you. You can't even trust yourself. So it's very important that we follow vows. When you have a vow, it identifies who you are. So there's a vow of marriage. There's so many different vows that you take in your life. So the vows that you take in your life will determine who you are. And if you break those vows, that also determines who you are. It determines that you're not capable of keeping a promise or keeping a vow. So you're not trustworthy. So some people are completely trustworthy because they're predictable. You know exactly what they're doing at different times of the day. They're predictable. But a person who you cannot predict, one day they're chanting Hare Krishna, the next day they're in a bar drinking wine or beer. So that's unpredictable, right? And therefore you can't trust a person like that. So once we take a vow, the vow is what defines who we are. And if we break the vow, then we are basically lost. See, you trust someone when you can predict them, that you know where they are at any time of the day and what they're doing. They're predictable. But a person is not predictable, you can't trust that person because they can do anything. Right? So the faith is based on predictability. When you can predict where this person is 24 hours a day, then you can have faith in that person. You know where they are and what they're doing. But if you can't predict, one day you're in Sankirtan, and the next day they're smoking marijuana, downtown Seattle. So they're unpredictable. So you can't trust a person like that. And oftentimes it happens, somebody gets married, they make the vow of marriage, till death do you part. But then after a couple of years, you find out that the husband is cheating on his wife. Now, that's like devastating because the wife is not cheating on the husband, but the husband is cheating on the wife. The wife, you know, maybe one time she can forgive it, maybe two times she forgive it, the third time she can't forgive it. Right? Usually, one time it's like in baseball, you have three strikes and you're out. But some people are like one strike and you're out. You know, there's no mercy, there's no forgiveness. Uh, so different people, different folks, different uh, slopes. Yeah. So some people are one slope, some people are two slopes, some people are three slopes. But everybody has their, what you would call their, you know, their limit.
Tolerance.
Yeah, or tolerance, limit to their tolerance. So we have to be very careful when we make a vow, like the vow of marriage is very sacred. Like the and other vows that we might make, like for example, the vow of initiation is very sacred. Breaking the vow defines who you are. You break the vow, then you're not trustworthy, and no one will trust you. No one will give you the uh, uh, what do you call they don't give you what's called um the way the verse the saying
Benefit of doubt.
yes, right, the what did you say
Benefit of doubt.
yeah, the benefit of the doubt. In other words, when you're trusted, you say, well, no, I didn't kill the cat, and they say, okay, we trust you. You didn't kill the cat. You get the benefit of the doubt, right? But if they find the bones of the cat, and you're in the back of your car, and they say, well, wait a minute, there's some problems. So then they won't give you the benefit of the doubt anymore. Okay, so let's see, we're almost finished. Are there any questions?
So the second paragraph, Maharaj, will be covered.
Oh, we didn't cover the second paragraph?
Yeah, I think we have about time. Okay.
Yeah, well, we'll do that tomorrow. Anyway, it says here, the first cause of material creation is daiva, or the destiny of the conditioned soul. Now, the material world exists for people who violate the rules and regulations of spiritual life. If everyone was following the rules and regulations of spiritual life, there wouldn't be a material world. There would only be the spiritual world. And the number of people in the material world is 1/4 of the number of living entities. Most people follow the rules and regulations, and they're in the spiritual world. It's a minority of people who break the laws of spiritual life and stay in the material world. So that's the good news. And the other good news is that if one, repents their sins and doesn't sin anymore, then they can go back to God. But if one is a recidivist that always says, yeah, I'll never do this again, but they keep doing things over and over again, because the soul is eternal, they could eternally remain in the material world suffering. And it's due to their own ignorance and weakness. So people suffer because of ignorance. Like, for example, a person who smokes and then later on they get the cancer, that's because of their ignorance. What do you expect? The lungs are not meant for smoking. The lungs are meant for oxygen. And if you look at, one day I was giving a lecture in India. It was a couple of years ago, and I said I started talking about how bad it is to smoke, and I had my cell phone, so I had a picture of the lungs of a person who was a smoker, and I asked someone to go around and show everybody, and there were about 400 people there, to show everybody, what the lungs of a smoker looks like, and it was black, So then I continued talking, and then someone was walking around showing, the blackness of the lungs. And one person stood up and said, "I'll never smoke again. I promise now, I'll never smoke again." So he had what's called an epiphany. Look that word up, epiphany. Yeah. The guy was like, his face got red and he was like crying. So I'll never smoke again. What's it mean?
A sudden intuitive perception of or insight into the reality or essential meaning of something.
Yeah, it's a waking up.
By some simple, homely, or commonplace occurrence or experience.
Yeah, well, the experience was I gave my cell phone to someone with a picture of the lungs of a smoker, right, who died, right? And he went around showing it to everyone. And this one guy stands up, and he started screaming, I'll never smoke again, I promise you. Well, that was good.
I still remember, Maharaj. Fortunately, I was there.
You were there, yeah.
And that was very hilarious. When that foreign person reacted and came on the stage as well later.
Oh, you were there.
Fortunately, I was there. It was really amazing.
It's eye-opening. Yeah.
Hilarious. At the end, he came on the stage as well with Maharaj. He was promising that he will never smoke.
Haribo. I hope he kept his promise.
Apparently, epiphany has 4 key characteristics. One is suddenness, it's like the aha moment. Then clarity, so it should bring clear and deep understanding of the complex issue or situation.
So
Transformation.
They were unclear until then, but
Yeah.
it became very clear now.
And then transformation.
I'll never smoke again.
Yeah, exactly. And then emotional impact.
Yeah.
Leading to a lasting impression.
Yeah.
The peace transformation also is like a epiphany? Suddenly they realize, okay, maybe we should give up drugs.
Well, I hope, I hope.
During Prabhupada.
Well, uh, well, during Prabhupada's time, there were a lot of young kids that were smoking marijuana, and, and heroin and all kinds of things. So, but when they joined Krishna consciousness, they stopped, or they had to stop.
Sudden.
Right. So Prabhupada said, well, there's this big problem in America. You have the hippies, but if they join Krishna consciousness and stop being hippies, they'll become happies.
Mhm.
They go from hippie to happy.
Is that epiphany?
Uh, well, it's an awakening. Epiphany means like you wake up and you realize, well, everything I've been doing before is wrong. I'm going to stop. That's the wake up moment.
But did you have an epiphany when you?
Yeah, of course. Of course. Yeah. I was
Yeah,
doing all the bad things.
Suddenly we realize, wow, this is the thing. I didn't get it till now.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that transforms, there has to be some
Yeah.
moment of
An awakening.
awakening.
Yeah.
And reading Prabhupada books again and again sometimes brings that understanding.
Well, the purpose of Krishna consciousness is purification. The purpose of nonsense people is contamination. It's a difference in contamination and purification. So you don't want to get contaminated because you lessen your lifespan, your health, everything by taking up bad habits. Like there was this one guy, and he was a salesman, and every time I'd go to that shop to buy something, you could smell this guy's breath. I mean, he was a big meat eater, right? And he had very bad breath. So then one time I went there, he wasn't there. And I asked, what happened to him? And I said, oh, he died. What do you expect? He was eating horrible stuff every day, meat and liquor and things like that. And, how long can your body do that? The body has limits. You keep filling it up with meat and liquor, it's not going to last that long. Okay, so are there any questions, comment?
Right? You've been in the cycle of birth and death. That means you've been repeating
Mhm.
same mistakes
Yes.
until we came into contact with
Well, you have your epiphany. You're waking up. Well, there's not much excuse for someone who is a recidivist. They keep making the same mistake over and over again. They say, oh, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. And then they go ahead and do it again. It's just like, a young kid, 16 years old, they get your driver's license. Then after a month of driving, they get a ticket for speeding. Then after another month or two, they get a second ticket for speeding. Right? And another month or two, they get a third ticket for speeding, but this time they take the license away for like 2 years. So then, after 2 years, you get the license back. Now they're being much more careful about driving because driving is it's not a given, it's a privilege. It's not that, oh, everyone can drive. No, it's a privilege. And if you get tickets, too many tickets, like for example, when I started driving, I got too many tickets. The policeman came to my house and took my driver's license away. Came to the house and took the driver's license away. And then I couldn't drive for 3 years. Now, after 3 years, when I was able to drive again, I was real careful because driving is not a given. It's something that is you know uh, a blessing in a sense, right? You can drive, you can go places. You don't need somebody else to help you and so forth. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? If not, then happy 4th of July. And I remember one year, a long time ago, I bought all these firecrackers. You know, my older brother, he said, "What did you do that for? You know, you spent all this money, you know." And you know, you have all these different firecrackers. You know, you have the bombs, you know, big firecrackers like that, and all kinds of things. So he took all my firecrackers and put them in a bucket of water.
Oh,
Yeah, because they're dangerous. You know, you can lose an eye. There's so many things that can happen. You set fire to a house. You know, every year there's some kind of tragedy because of the firecrackers. You know? And that's why you see now, you know, no firecrackers allowed in Sammamish. So you have to go to some Indian reservation to, you know, use your firecrackers or somewhere. So, you know, I mean, I hope nobody, did you buy any firecrackers? Okay, that's good. Yeah, they're dangerous. They're potentially very dangerous. You have to be very careful. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Maharaj, I have a question.
Yeah.
Maharaj, I think it said like once you realize your sins and you don't sin again, then you can go back to Godhead. And according to Vedic philosophy, it also says that once you go back to Vaikuntha, you're not falling down again. So why did we fall down in the first place if we were there?
Because of ignorance. It's like this. If someone calls you up, say, "Madam, you won the lottery today. How do you want to get the money? You want to get it by snail mail, or you want to come down to our office and get the money, or, you know, they'll give you different ways you can get the money." So, but in the end, they cheated you. And so once cheated, uh, if someone calls you up again, they say, "Oh, you won the lottery. How do you want to get the money? You want snail mail? You want to come down here?" Now, would you go the second time? No, because you got burned the first time. So you learned your lesson, right? Only an idiot, someone who's really ignorant, would go the second time to get cheated. Is it?
It's like the driving license.
It's what?
It's like the driver's license.
Well, what do you mean by that?
It's just like driving is a privilege.
Yeah, it's a privilege.
So
Exactly.
going to Vaikuntha is a privilege, I think, to be taken up.
It's a real blessing. Yeah. So, you know, you cannot be forgiven indefinitely. You keep sinning after being forgiven, eventually you're not forgiven anymore. So we have to be very careful that when we promise to do something, and maybe the first time or second time that we break the promise, we can be forgiven, but eventually it's no more forgiveness. That there's certain things that, you know, 1, 2, 3, you're out. But there's other things that are 1, you're out right away, like child molestation. I always have argued on the GBC meetings that, you know, it should be 1 strike, you're out. And then the other people say, "Oh, no, you have to be merciful, you know, blah blah blah," you know. And because of that nonsense, they were letting you know, real hardcore molesters to be forgiven, and they committed more crimes again against devotees. So there are certain things that's one strike and you're out. Now someone said, "Well, that's not being merciful. Prabhupada was merciful." Well, maybe Prabhupada was merciful, and that's okay. But we have to be very careful. We can't accept people that become devotees who are proven to be child molesters. You know, it's too dangerous. And it's not fair to the children. It's not fair to the children. So there are kids that were continually molested in ISKCON. And when you meet them, I mean, they know everything about ISKCON because they were devotees. They grew up as children as devotees, but they won't have anything to do with ISKCON because they're some of the teachers were molesters. That was the worst. I mean, the teacher was the molester. So we have to be very, very careful, especially with children, that they be protected. Otherwise, they get molested. That can harm them for the rest of their life. And it's a great, let's say, injustice, because you would think that a devotee who is let's say, a chaperone and protector of children becomes a molester. Oh, that's unbelievable and not forgivable type of sinful thing that they're doing. They're ruining the child's life by doing that. So we have to be very careful. That's why they eventually stop forcing the parents to send their children to the Gurukul and separate the kid from the parents. It's a very dangerous thing to do that. And then, but somebody has to take care of the kids. But a lot of times previously, the someone who was taking care of the kid was a molester. And then after they molested the kid in one place, they would send the same person to some other place, some other temple, as if that solved the problem. But that didn't solve the problem. That gave him that other person a chance to molest more kids. And then finally you realize that it should be one strike, you're out, because it's too dangerous. When a person has that type of let's say culture of molesting kids, it's almost impossible for them to stop. So there are a lot of dangerous things in this world, but the most dangerous thing is that for a child to be molested. That's like the worst thing in the world, because that can ruin the whole life of the child. Okay, so we'll stop right there. Thank you very much. And happy 4th of July. Don't buy any firecrackers. You can buy crackers, but not firecrackers. Yeah.
Maharaj, as you said, they are very dangerous, the firecrackers. So
Yeah.
one of my cousins in
Yeah.
India, back in India.
Oh, India. Oh my God. It's the worst thing in India. The firecrackers don't stop one day. They go on for weeks.
And he was like sitting in his back patio, and he was in some middle school, I think so. And he was not doing anything with the crackers. So someone started some cracker in the air, like flew and straight came to his eye.
Yeah.
And he lost his eye.
He lost his eye. Very easy for that to happen. Especially the firecrackers, they're like rockets.
And India, they don't follow too much rules. They just shoot the rockets in any angle. So not just how they.
And in fact, I grew up in a village. They used to have two groups.
Yeah.
And then they would
They would fight each other with the
they
crackers.
rockets to the other side.
Oh my God. That's crazy. Anybody get hurt?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
We were in the middle.
Yeah. So one time I told you this before, I bought all these firecrackers, right? And when my brother saw it, took them all, threw them into a bucket of water, so I couldn't use them. He did the right thing, they were dangerous, I was upset, yeah. But he did the right thing. Any one of those firecrackers could have, burned my eye or burned the person's house, or who knows what, injure another person. Very dangerous. I hope you don't have any firecrackers. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.